Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointy Not Sharp. Today we're taking a look at the Italian model of 1891 TS bayonet. Now these are made to fit the Carcano model of 1891 TS carbines, or in Italian this, and they were primarily issued to sort of non-infantry rear-edge kind of soldiers like artillery, engineers, people like that. Well, I say rear-edge, it was also issued to like Alpine troops and machine gun crews. Anyone who had the need for a short, handy carbine that needed to be slung over the shoulder instead of over the back. So the Italians already had the cavalry carbine in service, which had a different sling swivel setup, and that was designed to be slung over the back. And that also had a folding bayonet, whether this is a detachable bayonet with a, as you can see, transverse mortise. As far as I know, this is the only bayonet with a transverse mortise. I haven't come across another yet. Now, these were first designed in 1897. The TS carbine was designed in 1897. These bayonets didn't come in until a little bit later. But they were all made at the Brescia Arsenal. And a bit of an interesting story to the Brescia Arsenal that goes back to like the 1500s. There used to be a monk sanctuary, like a religious spot. Then when Napoleon came through, it was converted to an arsenal for producing arms. And that started in 1812, and that continued all the way through until just after the Second World War. So a little bit of interesting history about the Brescia Arsenal. Anyway, production of the TS carbine started in 1898, and initially they had conventional bayonets with a straight mortise. And that's pretty much this same style of bayonet we have here, which is the model 1891 Carcano bayonet. I've already done a video on these. Check it out. Great video. Very interesting blade. And in my opinion, probably the most modern blade of its time. Anyway, so production of the TS transversely fitted TS bayonets, that started in 1900 and that continued until 1919. It's not clear how many were made, but it would have been a lot, like a fair few. Now, in 1924, I believe it was, they started production of a different sort of carbine because they'd ceased production of the TS, and they were converting model 1891 rifles, like full-length rifles, down to carbines. So that was the 91/24, and that sort of replaced this rifle and bayonet combo in service. And then in 1928, they actually started taking the TS carbines and these bayonets and modifying them to traditional bayonets and traditional style of mounting devices. Now, since the conversion of these bayonets and rifles, these bayonets are now extremely rare. You don't see them often at all. I think I've only ever seen one for sale or two for sale, including this one, which I got really cheap. Unfortunately, this one is missing the press stud, which would usually fit in the back. It would have a lock and catch in here, but we'll have to use our imagination today. So as I said, these are very, very rare, very difficult to get your hands on. And from what I read, they were actually still in service in Africa, in Chad, all the way through until about 1970. Anyway, I'll jump into the actual construction of this bayonet. Now, if you've seen my previous model 1891 Carcano bayonet video, that one I did a pretty good job explaining the construction of the blade, and these are virtually identical, or they are identical, except for the catches. So don't worry about the scabbards. The scabbards are both not original, and originally both of these would have had this style of scabbard with a brass end mount and chape. Or chape locket. However, in the Second World War, it was not uncommon for the steel ones to come in with this one, and this is actually World War II production scabbard as well, with the steel chape and locket as opposed to brass. I'll take them out so you can actually get a feel for how similar they actually are. So there you go. Very, very similar blade profile. Very, minor difference in the point down here. This one's a little bit more pointed, but One thing the Italians did when they were manufacturing arms was they would just constantly be modifying the design or updating the design while manufacturing. So, you know, month by month, there'd be small incremental changes without a change in model, and it's very difficult to keep track of all of them. For example, with their rifles, overall, they've got the model 91 and the model 38, and then you've got all the sub-models, and then of those sub-models, you've got all of the different modifications which aren't really listed. It's an absolute nightmare to figure out what's going on with Italian rifles. So when you do come across small differences like this, I try not to get too stuck up on it. But very, very slim blade, nice and strong, high carbon steel, squared fuller on both sides, and sharpened blade. This one's a little, you know, it's seen a bit of wear over the years. It's pretty old now. Then crossguard muzzle ring, nothing too exciting, little ball finale on the end of the crossguard. And wooden grips secured by, what are they, rivets. Now this is where it changes and gets interesting. So I've got a pommel. However, as you can see, bumping my tripod there, the mortise, which is the hole that runs along here or across here that fits onto the bayonet lug, is horizontal instead of longitudinal. So it's a transversely fitted mortise. So the idea is you clip the muzzle ring onto the front of the rifle at about a 90-degree angle, and the muzzle will actually have stoppers on there. And when it connects those two stoppers and can't go any further, then you rotate the bayonet in over the, here's a photo actually, of the transversely fitted bayonet lug, and it just clips into there. And then to remove it, you would have a press button on the back of the pommel here. This one does not have it, and that would disengage our ramped locking lug in here. Now that's the only real difference in the bayonet. I've only ever come across one other for sale, and that did have the press button and the locking surface and all that, but it sold for a stack of money, and it was sort of out of my budget for a one-off bayonet that I find interesting, but is not really essential for my own personal collection. Oh, I put them on the wrong ones. Silly me. Now this scabbard, as I said, is World War II construction and not original to this bayonet. This bayonet I know is from 1916. I'll get into that shortly. However, the scabbard is 41. But just, you know what? I'll jump into the markings now. So, Kakanos will have serial numbers on the crossguards of the bayonets, and on the rifles they'll be on like the receiver somewhere. I can't really remember where. And the way that these serial numbers are set is you'll have a letter followed by 4 numbers, or in later production you'll have 2 letters followed by 4 numbers. Now, there's no official release of serial numbers across years of manufacture. The rifles do have a year of manufacture stamped on them, and a lot of people have sort of referenced serial numbers for those years of manufacture, and you can sort of bracket and figure out roughly when they were manufactured. So this one here, we have Z for Zulu 8086. Now, based on that serial number, we can determine that this bayonet was manufactured in 1916, because rifles with serial numbers and dates of manufacture have been observed with a T for Tango with 4 numbers in 1916, and Alpha Foxtrot with 4 numbers in 1916. And this Zulu falls in between those two, so we know this is a 1916 production bayonet. It's always interesting when you can use serial numbers to figure out when something's made. I like it quite a lot. Anyway, then we have a little proof mark on the back of the blade, back of the ricasso here, the right ricasso. And on the left ricasso, we have Brescia's stamp. See if I can get that in there. I'll put a picture up. And yeah, that's just our manufacturer's marking. The only other marking we have on this, which I don't know much about, is just here we have a 10 on the crossguard. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's a rack number. I have no idea. And while these aren't markings you'd find on this bayonets in particular, well, you might. It's the same style of scabbard as they would have for the original bayonet, except, brass instead of steel. But you'll find this marking, which will be your manufacturer and date of manufacture, stamped into the leather on the back. And it's a bit difficult, so I'll put a photo up. But what it says is C.Newty 1941, and that is the manufacturer and date of manufacture of this scabbard. So we know that 1916, 1941, they don't match together, and they're likely paired together during a refurbishment. This doesn't appear to be refurbished, because generally when they were refurbished, they receive a heavy blue, like this one here, which we don't have. I mean, the blade's a little dark, but I don't think it's been blued. Anyway, guys, that's really all I have on this bayonet. I wasn't able to find too much more. I mean, it's the same bayonet, just with a different locking mechanism and slightly different history. They were only manufactured by Brescia, whether the Model 1891 were manufactured by a large variety of manufacturers. So, yeah, I like it. If I've left anything out or made any grievous errors, guys, please feel free to comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching.